You know those moments when you're sitting in your office and you're feeling something, but you can't quite put your finger on it, but it's frustrating? Yeah, we're gonna tackle that today. This is about getting very real with yourself. Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hello, and thank you for listening to the Legacy Lounge. I think you're going to find today's episode helpful in more ways than one. Today, we are going to talk about something that I learned about not early enough in my career, let alone in my life, but it helps both personal and professional fronts. And it also became a go-to default of mine as a leader of people, especially when having conversations with my direct reports or fielding the complaints that never end as to why we can't do something, which I know you know what I'm talking about. So let's dive in. The 7 whys exercise. And you're going to want to save this episode because the resource tool that I have for you to use as soon as starting today is going to be attached in the show notes. The 7 whys exercise is not your typical root cause analysis, okay? This is about getting very real with yourself. You know those moments when you're sitting in your office and you're feeling something, but you can't quite put your finger on it, but it's frustrating? Yeah, we're going to tackle that today. So let me share a personal story that helped me create this tool and why I continue to lean on it. I was running my district as a senior director, and man, we were crushing it. I mean, the team was just delivering on all cylinders and sales were through the roof. But we felt very disconnected, right? So one morning I started my own gratitude reflection prompts, and I just kept saying to myself, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. All day. I'm so tired. And we had some high profile visitors coming in to walk one of my buildings. And I met one of the visitors early in the parking lot. And man, she is a mentor that just keeps on giving. I tell you what. And she said, "Hi, how are you today?" And we're getting ready to head into the store. And normally I would just respond with, "Oh, I'm good. Da, da, da. Let's brush it off and move on." But I looked at her and I was like, "You want the real answer?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Girl, I'm so tired." And you know what she did? She asked one question over and over and over and over and over until I was like, oh my gosh, we have to table this conversation until after this visit, because we need to go get coffee and talk about how mind blown you just made me with that exercise. And I think everyone needs to know about it. So we're going to get into it. My response to her was, "You want to know the real answer? I'm so tired." And she simply said, "Why?" Not just once, but literally 7 times in a row. And here is what was uncovered. Oh, get ready for this. I get hyped up still thinking about it, because I don't know why more people don't know about this or think this way. But after this episode, I promise you, if you practice it once, it'll change the way you think about root causes and problem solving forever. So I started with, "I'm so tired." She asks, "Why?" "Because I didn't sleep well." She asks, "Why?" "Because I kept checking my phone." She asked, "Why?" Because I'm worried about tomorrow's numbers. Why? Because I don't trust my team's processes. Why? Because I haven't properly spent the time to train them on what I want. Why? Because I have a fear of delegating. I think I can do things faster. Why? Because my identity is wrapped up in being a problem solver. What? What just happened? Now, if I lost you in part of that, I'm going to say it again. My response was, I'm so tired. And she simply asked, why? And let me answer. Followed by 6 more whys until the 7th thing that genuinely came out of me was because my identity is wrapped up in being a problem solver. Hello, that's a root cause of a problem if I have ever heard of one. But do you see what happened there? We just went from tired to now uncovering completely an actual leadership identity crisis moment in 7 questions, 1 word, over and over and over again. Now, here's the thing about the 7 whys. It's not actually about the number 7. I know, mind blowing. I don't even know why 7, but it stuck for me, and so I hope it does for you too. But it is about pushing past your first and your second and even your third comfortable answer until you start getting to the real truth of what's going on. And let me tell you, it will be uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable. Like maybe I should stop asking questions uncomfortable. But right when you're in that discomfort, that is pure gold. And I have used this tool with my previous teams. I use it with my current clients. The first why is what you tell everyone. It's an automatic response. The second why is what you tell your closer friends. The third why is what you probably tell yourself. But the fourth is when it gets real. The fifth, you're going to get squirmy. The sixth, you're probably going to identify a pattern. And the seventh why is exposing a truth bomb. So I want to share a story with you that I have not talked about on socials or the podcast ever before. But I had a leader who I used this tool with them. I didn't tell them what I was doing at the beginning of it, but they caught on very quickly. And it was rooted in why they did not participate on the team meeting Zoom calls. Now, a lot of listeners, probably your calendar is Zoom to Zoom to Zoom, back to back to back. And Zoom fatigue is real. That's not what I'm saying. But I was asking in regards to a concern on their engagement front, as in, you're awfully quiet today. Everything okay? And then the same thing happened the next couple calls. And suddenly I was like, hey, why aren't you participating in our district conference calls? I want to hear from you. Your peers rely on what you have to say and your experience. And I also want to know your thoughts and I want to know your opinion. So is there something, that I maybe made you feel as to why you're being so reserved or quiet on our team calls? And after doing the 7 why exercise the first time, that conversation ended with them telling me, I am actually terrified that everyone's going to realize that I actually don't have the answers. That changed the entire dynamic of how I then could show up and support them to reiterate what they do well, when it's done right, and celebrate that to amplify that inner fear. But it would have taken, I don't even know how much time to actually get to. It wasn't that they were disengaged. It wasn't that they didn't feel valuable. It wasn't that they were scared to share their opinion. It was that the perception mattered so much to them because they were the expert. They were the go-to. They were the experienced, tenured one that everyone relies on. And out of nowhere, for some reason, a seed was planted in their mind that if they don't know the answer, people will not think that you're credible. People will not think that they can come to you for help. And that could not be further from the truth. But by asking why 7 times in a row, we went from, oh, I just have a lot on my plate, to I'm terrified that they will realize I don't have the answers. That is something I wish I would have known sooner, because I can then, as their leader, do something different to support them, to encourage them, to include them, without putting them on blast or like they're in a giant spotlight. Intentionally, subtle, intentional movements. But honestly, that is the power of this tool. It can go from surface level excuses to heart level truths. And I really challenge you to take one thing that's bothering you, one thing that you have been brushing off or maybe even making excuses for that you don't want to admit to anybody else. But I challenge you to ask yourself why. Then ask it again and again. And yes, I want you to actually do it. Ask yourself why. And then ask it again. And again. You could even do it right now. I'll wait. Okay, I'm kidding. But really, try it. How was that? Even that moment of silence, you might have thought, did my podcast just disconnect? That's a little uncomfortable. Mission accomplished. Good. That means you are doing it right. Remember, the quality of your leadership is directly tied to the quality of the questions that you are willing to ask yourself. And sometimes the most important conversation that you need to have is with the person in the mirror. Keep asking why, stay curious, and don't be afraid of your own answers. If you want to dive deeper, in the show notes of this episode, I am gifting my free 7 Why Discovery Tool resource, and you can fill it out. You can type in your answers on your phone. Make sure you're not driving. You need to be in park or stationary in order to write them down. But get curious, have fun with this, and try it out. Not only on yourself, maybe with your team, maybe with your best friend, maybe with your family, but don't forget the most important why that you will ever ask anyone is when you slow down enough to ask yourself. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.